Hi everyone, it's Jen again. Happy Mother's Day to all the other mothers out there. I hope that you are enjoying some time with your family. I'm still waiting for my family to wake up, so I'm going to take this opportunity to update you guys on on my progress for Otome Jam. So this was the end of week 2. And so far, I am still on track for all my art assets, which is not a surprise to me because I have a really good idea of how my process works for creating art assets, so I can predict how long it'll take me to make art assets very accurately. And for me, the process is also like a one that's like I don't really need to motivate myself or to create a special environment or be in a certain mood or flow. Like I can pretty much just turn it on and off like clockwork. All those years and I don't know, hundreds, thousands of hours that I spent developing this skill just kind of kick in like autopilot. I feel like when I put my mind to this is now when I'm going to work on this. So not a surprise for me to be able to keep up with my art asset schedule. The writing is where I always struggle, and of course I always underestimate the amount of time that it's going to take me to write these scenarios. So this week I was planning on writing the dungeon scenario, and I don't know if I'm even halfway through it right now, to be honest. So all this writing stuff is probably going to get pushed back, but I'm probably going to be ahead of schedule on my art assets, so hopefully I can just kind of like use the time that I would have spent making art doing more writing, and let's hope we can still finish the entire game by the end of the Otome Jam. But if not, then I might have to just have like a couple of chapters up and finish up the total thing after the Otome Jam has ended. But I'll definitely have some playable content and a good chunk of it done by then. At least that is the plan. So let's go over the good stuff first. I got my backgrounds I had planned done, so these are for the next chapter that I was assuming I was going to be writing this upcoming week, but it doesn't look like that. I'll probably just be writing the dungeon chapter some more. I have Mietta's battle sprites. She is going to be a recruitable character to use in combat for this game, being that it's from the villain's point of view. And I reanimated her, her portrait sprite. She had the same sort of thing as Dieta had, where I had the artwork for her portrait done, but I didn't have all her expressions done, and I hadn't decided on her class and element yet, so I needed to adjust that background to reflect what I had decided to do for her skills and her faction and element. So she was done this week, and that was all for the art assets. I did end up spending some more time going in and moving around some of the code and like reprogramming some of the stuff for the dungeon on a game mechanics point of view. As you can see over here, if you're familiar with the original game, this was something that I think people had requested that I hadn't actually implemented because I hadn't figured out how, was to be able to have this menu system available during the dungeon exploration instead of having it just kind of when you have a random encounter. So the way that I managed to do this was each one of these dungeon locations I split into 3 labels. Originally it was just 2 labels. So this current variable here keeps track of where the player is for when they go into battle, and they kind of go into that whole like battle sequence of scripts that after they exit the battle, there is a call statement that evaluates where the player was based on this, whether or not this current variable is true, and then it like puts them back to this label so that they don't go through that random encounter roll again, and they don't go through the transition again. For this menu system, I needed to break down this label into another one to just kind of pop the player over here to the menu that is for the movement, and I did add also an examine area action, so that it'll skip all like the kind of like location dialogue scripts when you go in and out of the menu. And this new examine area thing is just a different way for me to break up the chat dialogues, so, and to have a little bit more control over the flow of the conversation. So in the original game, there was if there was any location specific dialogue, it would be based on whether or not how many visits you've been to the location, and generally speaking, each location would only have unique dialogue if it was your first time going to that location. Now there was also these kind of overall quest dialogues that were like an ongoing conversation that would be based on whether or not you've visited a location for the first time. So every time you would visit a location for the first time, you would trigger this dialogue that would kind of be the ongoing quest conversation, and this was all dialogue that I would count on the player seeing, because I would know how many spaces they would need to move in order to complete the objective, and so I would base the dialogue chain on that, and then any additional movements would kind of fall suddenly into this like random dialogue. In order to kind of, I guess, still have interaction with the characters as you are backtracking, because in some of the maps it was necessary to backtrack, I had this second set of dialogues that was kind of more like banter, that I knew the player would probably see a lot of these dialogues, but not necessarily all of the dialogues. So these were kind of just like little conversations that were not important to the main story, but would help kind of develop the companion characters a little bit more, like kind of show off their personalities a little bit more. But they were short and quippy. And then these third set of dialogues were only to be triggered if the player had visited a location 5 times or more. So it was really like a way of saying, hey, you're going around in too many circles now. So this was mainly just a few different choices for the companions to complain to the protagonist that you need to like move on and stop going in circles. So originally, most of the locations did not have unique area dialogue, and they would just go straight into kind of like the mission dialogue. But this time I've changed it so that you have an option to have like location specific dialogue on each location. And these only trigger once. So once you've learned about the clue for the location, the option is no longer there. This is because I did not want to have the player rereading the scripts. I feel like that kind of breaks the immersion of the companion characters when they start repeating themselves. So I try to avoid that as much as possible. Anytime that there's a situation where the companions may repeat themselves, I try to at least make it a random roll. So that there's a good chance that they won't repeat themselves like twice in a row, that you would have to keep repeating the same action over and over and over again to have them actually repeat themselves. I just feel like it's really immersive breaking when you give the player the option to have them repeat themselves. And I guess somebody could argue, well, what if I missed what the characters were saying and I need to get the clue again? Well, then I would say go to your history button and scroll up and reread what the conversation was. But I'm not going to have... I'm going to try my best to avoid having the characters repeat themselves in the play of the game, because I just find that to make them really feel like... It makes them feel like a stationary NPC that's just there to, like, regurgitate the same dialogue over and over again, and maybe I've just played too many RPGs that always just kind of, like, takes me out of the story. And I appreciate that in most visual novels, they don't go in that direction, because a lot of them kind of just follow certain paths, so there's not as many times that you'll be in a situation where the companions will repeat themselves, as opposed to like RPGs where there's usually like quest hubs where there's like a standing NPC that will just sit there and literally regurgitate the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, the rest of it is pretty much the same as the original game, so we still have movement.
My lord.
Again, we have options
As you say.
to have the extra dialogue. Those examine room dialogues, for the most part, are not necessary. There's a few special key rooms where it's necessary to examine the room, but for the most part, you can skip most of them. They're more there to just help give you extra clues if you need, or extra conversations to help like develop the characters a little more. There is no longer in this game the logic, power, empathy building of your protagonist, as this is a shorter game, and the endings are not going to be so much based on those types of choices. Rather, there are more opportunities to build your loyalty through conversation, as again it is a shorter game, so I want to be able to unlock those bond levels faster. So most of the choice dialogue is going to affect the bonding level, so that you don't have to go through as many battles to increase your bond with your characters. But most of the most of the battle is just sort of the same. Only difference here is that since you are starting with this big game with the Support of the Queen, you basically have all the common units already unlocked and at your disposal, as well as 2 elite units, so this dungeon is like pretty darn trivial. Alright, well that is my progress for the week, and yeah, I'm looking forward to tackling my goals for this upcoming week, and I'm looking forward to seeing other projects develop in the Otome Jam community. So, take care. Again, all you other mothers out there, have a great Mother's Day. And for those of you who are working on your own projects, don't forget to take care of yourself and enjoy the process. Bye now.